Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Sequin Girly Create. If you are new here, I often talk about sewing and living a creative life. Today is a different one where I am reviewing my year. So if you haven't seen it already, do head over to part 1, which was sewing year review, which you could do with me on this sheet that I created. Today's version is a bit more of a rounded just sort of review of the year, and I talked you through that, and I hope you shared that. This one is using the year compass. Now if you haven't seen that, it's a great free tool. It's not for sewing, but I have going to share snippets with you. It's a really nice way just to reflect on what's gone and what's coming. So if you'd like to join along with me, grab yourself a copy of that. If you haven't already, do have a go at your sewing year review as well. And there'll be a third part of this, which is my Make 9 for next year, review this year and next year. Goodness me, I'm treating you to many reviews. Right, so the year compass, I'm not going to do every page with you, but I'm going to share some with you and you can sort of have a go at yours as well. So to do this booklet, I have sat down and really just taken some time to look through things, to think through, and I'm going to share some snippets with you. So I'm going to start with page 4, which is the past year. And it says, go through your calendar week by week, see any important events, gatherings, friends get together, significant projects, and write them down here. So I've got this giant list here, and I'm not going to share them all with you, but what I want to reflect on is things that connect to what we've been up to together. So in May, that's when I began my vlog. And I started it during the very first May bank holiday of the year, and I worked on pre-recording some, I worked on doing some shorts and just putting myself out there. And one of my very early ones was actually talking about my Make 9, which I'd already done from January, so it was like one of my very first one was actually a Make 9 update. And that was a pretty significant thing. I actually released my first one on the 2nd of May 2023. Then other significant sort of sewing-y things that happened this year was in September. At the beginning of September, I did my very first Southern social. And we've had, I think it's 4 or 5 now. So we had 2 in September. Did I do one in October? I definitely did one in November and one in December. So at least 4 of those have happened now, and really beginning to get to know people. We've still had lots of lovely new people coming, and I really enjoy having that time to chat to people, not just about sewing, but all sorts of things. I've met lots of different people through the Southern Social, and we have the swaps table, and we did a special Christmas one. So that's been a highlight of my year. And prior to that, in the July, I think it was, or June, I went to the Staffordshire social, and thank you to Ruth and Sally for that, because I loved that too. It was just a really tiring day because it was more than 2 hours each way, but I did love it. If you would like to come to a future social, there are dates available. I'll put them in here for next year. I'm planning ahead more now. If you saw part 1 of this, that was one of the things I said, is planning more ahead, and opening dates, because I know people like to plan ahead. And then in October, I did the very first virtual social. Now I'd been working on that since about the September, and it took a while, but I took my time, I didn't overcommit, and the very first one was on the 29th of October, and was amazed. There's 23 of us virtually in squares. We had one in November or early December as well. Have we had 2 or 3? I don't know. And we had the Christmas party one as well. So there's dates coming up for that as well. So that's been, those things have been real highlight of my year. 2022 was a really tricky year for me, and I remember starting 2023 a little bit lost still, and actually looking back to where I am now, to where I started the year, I have so much more personal direction, and I don't mean in terms of a job or things like that. There's always uncertainties in life, and we're still going through lots of challenges, but I personally feel I have more direction in terms of feeling master of my own destiny a bit more. Never can be fully. Life throws stuff at you all the time. But setting up my vlog and what has come from that has really created a sense of something that is my own. I don't know if that makes sense to other people, but sewing and my friends that I've made through that and the connections and all of those things have brought me such great joy, and knowing that other people are enjoying it too is actually the thing that gives me the greatest joy. I've been on some lovely trips this year. I took you to Wales with me, which was brilliant. Wasn't doing a vlog back in April, but I would have taken you to Euro Disney otherwise with me as well. I've had a new tattoo this year, or 2 new tattoos this year actually, and there will be another one coming. And I also have sort of done other things for the community this year. I'm not going to go into lots of details about those, but that's been sort of my highlights of the year. So then it says the past year. This is what my last year was about, and it's all kinds of things. We've got, I'm not going to do the personal life one, but or career and studies, but it says relaxation, hobbies and creativity. Colour, sewing, passion is what I've written in that box there. Physical health and fitness, and I'll tell you what I've written in there. I put whoops, because every time I've had a spare 20 minutes, instead of doing my couch to 5k or anything like that, I have sewn instead or recorded a vlog for you. So somehow next year I do need to have less of a whoops in the box. However, this year I have definitely drunk more water, which is something I've had to work on for a long time. The mental health and self-knowledge, what I've written in there is knowing when I need to stop. And that's definitely something that I have been able to do this year. And that included when I took a little break from my vlog as well. And it is such an important thing for me, is knowing when I just need to pause for a minute. Habits that define me. I've written early mornings. I love getting up and achieving something before the working day or the day starts, and I must keep going with that. But also being seasonal about that. I've recognised that in the summer I will get up much earlier than in the winter, and it's okay to hibernate a bit more in the winter. And then the better tomorrow, it says, what did you do this year to leave the world in a better shape than you found it? I love that question. I'd love to know what your answer to that one would be, or any of these if you'd like to share. For me, I wrote shopping small. You've heard me banging on about that. Buying dead stock, shopping at charity and second hand, and also committing to reusing pieces of clothing I already have into something else as well. 6 sentences. This is page 6 if you'd like to do yours as well. So 6 sentences about my past year. The biggest lesson I've learnt, and this is what I've written: I can do something if I make a plan. And that's quite interesting for me, because that was always in my teaching, and now that I'm not teaching anymore, I think that's part of the feeling lost, and I've realised that I can do that in different ways. The biggest risk I took this year was setting up Southern Social. If you'd asked me in 2022, that would have been a very different answer. But this year, setting up something where I could have been sat in a village hall on my own was really quite scary. But I promise you, if you're thinking about doing it, reach out to me. I'm happy to support you. It was super scary. I was like, what do I do if no one turns up and it's just me and Sophie sat there? The surprise of the year. I'm surprised that I'm a bit more competitive than I thought I was, but I've been working on that. That did really take me by surprise, but also how lovely the sewing community really is once you start reaching out. I know there are the challenges sometimes, but in general. I think you all know the answer to the most important thing I did for others. And I'm going to read the rest of those. Right, so page 7, 6 questions about my past year. So it says, who are 3 people who influenced you the most? Well, I'm going to tell you one of those people, and that is the lovely Christine. I'm sure if you've watched my blog before, you've heard me talk about Christine. Christine is one of the biggest highlights and most influential people that I have met this year. And she helped me build my confidence with my vlog. She's given me great friendship. She has influenced me with her fabric and pattern purchases, but also with like our Busy Bee sewing challenge, all sorts of things. Christine has been a really influential person to me this year. What were the things that I was not able to accomplish? I like the way that was written. Fitness routine, but I'll try again. What was the best thing you discovered about yourself? And I'd like to share with you what I've written here, because some of the comments that you've all written to me have helped me to know this. And I've written that being me is something others find helpful. I don't know how much I've talked about this, but when I was young, I just thought I was weird. And I was okay with that. And I just accepted that. And I've just been myself. And I even have a t-shirt that says, yes, I am weird. I've always lived my life carving my own path, sometimes more loudly, sometimes more quietly, but it's always been there at the core of who I am. And thank you to those of you who have commented and enjoyed what I do, or liked that I've done something differently, or said that I've brought a joy when you've watched me, or anything like that, because I was lost a bit at the beginning of this year. It was more last year, but I was still the remnants of that feeling at the beginning of this year. I'm getting weirdly emotional. But you have all been a massive part of me remembering that I'm just going to be me, and that me loudly and proudly is, even when I was the quiet version of me, I was still me, but I wasn't necessarily sharing it with other people. So I'm just going to tell you a really quick story about this. When I was a teacher, I tried really, really hard to always put my best self forward for obvious reasons. And if nothing else, if you don't know the British education system, you get judged a lot. And I obviously wouldn't share like the negative versions of myself, because particularly when I was younger, I felt too vulnerable. I didn't feel able to do that. And one day, a deputy that I worked with, he came into my classroom to talk to me, and I happened to be in my cupboard. Now, my teaching cupboard, compared to my classroom, was very messy. But I knew where everything was, and people used to tease me and my colleagues, and they'd say, it's amazing. And I would go, yes, top left, underneath the green folder, and they'd always be able to find exactly what they wanted, but it was messy. Now, Doug was a very experienced deputy. He'd worked at the school so long, he was now teaching the children of children he'd taught. And he walked into my classroom to speak to me, and he looked at my cupboard and he said, your cupboard makes me feel better about myself. And in that moment, Doug saying that made me realise that being all parts of me, and being the imperfect parts of me in front of others, was very helpful to others too. Now, that doesn't mean it's always gone well, and sometimes it has been used against me, but I'm never going to let the world harden me to that. And that comment that Doug made me realise that sometimes what we're doing and how we're being can be super helpful to others. And I think that goes to when I've said to people who've like left a school when I've been running it, and they're like, oh, but I don't want a big fuss. And I've said to them, I understand that that's hard for you, but we need to allow others to express what they need to express to you. And what we're projecting out into the world isn't just about who we are, but it's how we help others too. And that's the one I really want to share with you. Right, I'm not doing best moments of the year because I've already shared a lot of that. So biggest accomplishments and challenges I did in my own personal one, so I'm not sharing that with you. Forgiveness is a bit private, so I'm not going to share that with you, and the same with letting go, but I can assure you I have filled them in, and I really encourage you to do it. I think it's really healthy to do those things if you feel you can. So next one is the past year. This is page 12 if you're following along. The past year in 3 words. So choose 3 that defined your past year. So I went with fabric, community, and friends. And it says, the book of my past year. The book or a movie was made about your past year. What title would you give it? So I've gone with the title of Sewing in Between. That's what I would call my book right now. And then it says, goodbye to your last year. Is there anything else that left that you would like to write down, or is there anybody you'd like to say goodbye to? Do it now. I really encourage you again. I think it's a really healthy thing to let go. I'm not going to share mine with you, but it's something that we should keep working on doing. So now we're into 2024. So dare to dream big. So thinking about what next year might look like, and also what's going ahead. So things for next year, I want to keep going with the socials, virtual and real. I want to keep going with building that as a strong community and also hearing what people want from that. I want to keep going with my vlog and keep making sure that it fits with what I stand for and what you enjoy as well. Sorry, I'm just trying to wake things up. And also I want to keep going with really creating the wardrobe that is bringing me joy every day. I'm also thinking about my job and what I want that to be. Sorry, hang on a minute. Because whilst I love the job I've got, I'm looking to see what else I want to do. Right, next one. This is what my next year will be about. So I have filled this in, but habits that define me, that's definitely from what I talked about before, about that planning ahead. Things like the batch cutting, they're getting more into a rhythm of that, being more conscious of the better tomorrow is the more conscious planned purchasing. Obviously relaxation hobby, we know what that is, the sewing, and physical health and fitness, that not being a whoops next year. Right, magical triplets for the year ahead. Things that I'm ready to let go of. 3 things that I want to let go of. My competitiveness, my fabric shopping impulsiveness to 90%, and my, I don't know what word to call it, my scribbling, the weird mess I keep getting in. Now you've written some lovely comments to me, people, about creative mess. I'm not talking about that mess. I'm talking about the mess today where I've just not put stuff away. And then I dare to discover 3 things next year. What do I dare to discover? I'd love your suggestions on that. I haven't worked that one out yet. I'd love to know what things you think I should discover next year. These are great, aren't they? 3 things to do every morning. Visit 3 places. Well, I know one of those already is going to be like the Yorkshire area of the UK. Another place will be somewhere abroad. And I don't know what the 3rd one will be yet. Oh, I like this last one. I will reward my successes with these 3 presents. Oh, I'm going to think. Okay, so here is the final bit. 6 sentences about my next year. This year, I will not procrastinate any more over. So this year coming for 2024, I will not procrastinate any more over planning how to use my fabric, because I will create a toile first if I'm unsure. This year, I will draw the most energy from continuing to pursue my creativeness. This year, I will advise myself to keep being myself loudly and proudly. So last of all, I didn't read all the sentences, by the way, but there's some great sentences. My word for the year ahead. Now, I haven't done this yet, and there's a secret wish, which I wouldn't share with you because it's secret. I'd love to hear what you think my word for next year should be. When I look back on my vlogs that have gone well, they're often the ones where I'm chatty like this with you all. So that's definitely something I need to do. And the ones with the rail, they seem to go really well as well. I'm going to keep up the hacking of things and not feeling the need to keep buying patterns, but keep working on tweaking the patterns I've got. So I hope you enjoyed that. I love this year compass thing. It's got some great thoughts, and you don't have to fill it all in. Just fill in the bits that make you think and make you want to fill it in. I will catch you soon for my Make 9 review and Make 9 plans for the new year, which is part of this, and I need to do it last now that I've thought about all of this. And I will then catch you in the new year for what sewing plans I'll be up to then. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you who watches me, who gives me a thumbs up, who gives me a comment, who has subscribed, who has ever liked or commented on anything on Instagram, because every single one of those means something. My other half laughs at me when I sometimes read out comments to him because of how much they mean to me. But they do, because I feel and hear you, and I love that you can be that way with me. Somebody left me a comment about a week ago that said that this is a tricky time of year and so Vlogmas is hard for them, and I find that too, and that's another reason why I didn't do overly Christmassy masses of content, because I don't always feel festive, and I want this little corner of the internet to be a place where we can say that stuff. And that's not being unkind to others, because I get that others enjoy it and there's plenty of space, and there is space for all of us and space for each of us to be different and do our thing and to help others along the way whilst being different too. And I'm glad that you might find something in me that you haven't found elsewhere, or that I'm in common with others or whatever. But thank you, and I will be keeping going, because I definitely know that doing this has helped me be a better sewer, because it makes me more reflective and it helps me to plan and think ahead, because talking it out with you and hearing what you think as well is really bringing an extra layer of joy to my hobby. So please keep being who you are too. I'll catch you soon.